The high refined sugar content in a lot of junk foods, which is partly responsible for what kind of gives people that taste and that addiction to wanting more and wanting more, is in itself very damaging. It leads to spikes in insulin that can increase the risk of type 2 diabetes, it can increase the risk of obesity, and it can also lead on to conditions like polycystic ovarian syndrome as part of that problem with heightened levels of blood sugars as well as insulin. Acne is also a consideration. It's one of the reasons that we do often see acne in teenagers. Now, of course, it's not the only reason at all, and there is a whole side of this relating to sex hormones. But insulin is one of the biggest hormonal drives for the production of sebum in skin. So high levels of insulin increase sebum production, and that can also then lead on to conditions like acne. Junk food is also related to high blood pressure, hypertension, as well as cardiovascular disease. Again, think about what is found in junk food. You know, the high sugar content, the high table salt content, the additives, the trans fats, all of those constituents of that food will lead on to processes like atherosclerosis. It will be damaging to the endothelium, you know, the lining of arteries in the body. Also, because of the lack of nutrients in this sort of food, you know, people will be deficient in vitamins and minerals. And actually, by having food that's so depleted in these nutrients, people then want more food and more food because they're basically just chasing nutrients. And that in itself is very damaging, and it can lead to addictive eating behaviors too, as well as things like mood swings, which also brings back in this idea of fluctuations in blood sugar levels. So there's a lot of things here to really consider. And I see this in practice. I've got a patient that I see who is 17. She's been type 2 diabetic for about 2.5 years now. Sorry, type 1 diabetic, I should say. And she came in to see me the first couple of sessions in my osteopathic practice and would come and see me for, you know, osteopathy. And when she'd come into the room, she'd bring in a can of Coke. And then the next time, despite me giving her guidance, she'd bring in, you know, fast food. And it was this repetitive theme. It's, you know, it's this lack of understanding. All she's really been educated with regards to her type 1 diabetes is about the importance of glucose and the importance of insulin, and that the insulin and her injecting insulin will get her back to those balances or to that balance that she wants. But constantly through the day, her blood sugar levels are just shooting up and then coming back down, and she's having to manage that, and it's becoming very difficult for herself to do that. So, you know, it's also coming back to this lack of education that a lot of people will have, in that they might be diagnosed with a condition that very clearly needs you know, nutritional guidance. But if that nutrition is purely based on quantity rather than the quality, then we end up with these sorts of problems. And it's unfortunately sometimes the case that we don't always see the side effects and the repercussions on the outside. But obviously that doesn't mean that there aren't things going on negatively on the inside.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe below so you don't miss any future content. To learn more about CNM or its courses, head to www.naturopathy-uk.com.